INFPs and relationship problems. That's what we're talking about in today's video. INFPs and relationships. Relationships are such a big, intense issue for INFPs. And there's so many different ways INFPs can get tangled up in different relationship problems. We're going to look at one of the biggest ones that is not often talked about. Stay tuned for the video to find out more. Hi everyone. Today we're talking about INFP's biggest problems with relationships. Now, INFPs are one of the types that really crave intimacy and connection with others. They crave being truly seen, truly heard, and truly understood. And they're excellent at doing this for other people. That's one of the really strong traits of the INFP personality type. They can really see other people and hear them. They can really hold space for others to be their authentic self in front of them and make them feel safe and heard and seen and understood. This is because INFPs are able to accept the whole of someone, the whole picture of someone, flaws and all. INFPs can accept it. They can see the beauty in other people even when those other people are struggling. INFPs also tend to seek to merge with other people in relationships. This is because boundaries can be really tough for the INFP personality type. Many times this was because the INFP experienced enmeshment with a parent in childhood. The parent was always trying to merge with the INFP as a child and may have treated the INFP as more of a peer or a friend than actually a parent-child relationship. So what happens in adulthood is that when the INFP has an intimate relationship with someone, they unconsciously assume that that other person's emotional state is dependent on them, because this is what was modeled to them in childhood. This was what they experienced in childhood, usually with their primary caregiver. There was this strong dynamic of codependence. Mom or dad really impressed it upon them that if I'm mad, it's because of you. If I'm upset, it's because of you. Or if it's not because of you that I am mad or upset, it's your job to fix it. It's your responsibility to support me and coax me into a different emotional state and encourage me and make me feel better. Obviously, it was not the INFP child's responsibility at all. We are each responsible for our own emotional state, but because this was what was modeled to them, this was what they were taught, they assumed this as an unconscious belief system. And this unconscious belief system is still usually in place in adulthood. So when an INFP has a romantic partner and that partner is in a bad mood or needs space but doesn't explain why, or is frustrated with something, is not fulfilled in life overall, and doesn't talk to the INFP about it, doesn't make it very clear to the INFP what is going on, many INFPs will unconsciously assume they are responsible for that bad mood, that unfulfillment, that state of frustration in their partner. They take responsibility for the emotional state of their partner. So when their partner's emotional state takes a downturn, they assume it's some way their fault. INFPs can go crazy inside their own minds trying to figure out what they did wrong. This is why communication is so important in relationships with INFPs. If they don't know what's going on and their partner's upset in some way, they will assume it's their fault and they will go crazy trying to figure out what they did wrong and how they're not meeting their partner's needs. And they'll usually beat themselves up for it. I need to be more understanding. I need to be more compassionate. I need to listen more. And they'll start putting their partner's needs above their own all the time because they're obsessed with fixing their partner's emotional state. Now, most of the time, the INFP did nothing wrong. They were their usual compassionate, sweet listening self. Their partner's just going through something and it has nothing to do with them. But because of the INFP's history with that enmeshed parent in childhood, they don't know any other way to handle a negative emotional state from their partner now. So things can spiral out of control really quickly because the INFP will go into overdrive trying to fix things, even if they're doing it quietly, which they usually are. INFPs usually do this sort of work undercover, behind the scenes. They're not explicitly saying, it looks like you're upset. How can I help? What can I do? It's more like they're quietly trying to anticipate their partner's needs, make their partner happy, make their partner happier, and they're doing this very quietly. However, the other person usually will pick up on it. Whether or not the INFP is saying anything or not, the other person can pick up on this type of energy because this is codependent energy. And it feels smothering, and then the person feels annoyed because they can feel the INFP on them energetically, right? It's like white on rice. Like, oh, I just feel you on me, and I can feel like you want me to do something. You want me to stop being mad or stop being sad and be happy so that you can feel happy again. And that feels like an expectation, right? And that feels smothering, and so the person gets annoyed. And then they begin to push back. Then they start pushing the INFP away. This triggers the INFP even more. Now the INFP is truly going crazy, thinking, what did I do? How can I fix it? Why are they pushing me away? Why won't they talk to me? And the cycle continues, and it becomes worse and worse until there's a big blowout. And neither party is really sure what happened after these big fights or these big blowouts. Nobody's really quite sure how things got to this point. So the best thing an INFP can do if they're having this kind of problem is work on letting go of their partner's outcome, which is really hard for an INFP to do, but it can be done. Reminding themselves that they are not responsible for anyone else's emotional state. This doesn't just apply to their partner. This applies to family, friends, coworkers, acquaintances. The INFP is not responsible for anyone else's emotional state. This takes practice, but it can be done. And the INFP will ultimately have happier relationships. If this video was helpful to you in any way, please like, share, subscribe. That stuff really helps the channel, and I really appreciate it. Please also subscribe to my newsletter. I do tons of stuff for INFJ and INFP personality types, and I talk a lot about intuition, creativity, writing, energy work, empaths, boundaries, anxiety, all sorts of stuff that applies to INFJs and INFPs. So please subscribe to my newsletter. You'll find that in the comments below. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in today. I'll see you next time.